and looks like he's having a nice feast.
She, her.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
But it was not all good.
Just when you thought it was settling down and people were starting to be at least a little less crazy,
We got one!
here comes this person ready to save the day.
Here I come to save the day.
Hi. I use she, her pronouns. I'm not sir. Yeah, like it's like a knife in the heart. I did specifically ask ahead of time not to be called sir. Yeah, I'm just gonna go. Okay. The Sweetwater starts at okay. Not.
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
It's just always like a knife. It always hurts every single time. I was wondering if there's a manager I could talk to about something that happened. Yeah, I was called sir.
Oh, okay.
It just really sucks every time it happens.
Sorry about that.
I don't need to be called ma'am. I just need to not be called sir, you know? Thank you. Did you call me sir? I just want to tell you that the person who gave me this called me sir.
What?
Called me sir.
Oh.
It's just like, it kind of just hurts a lot to get called sir.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much. No, oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm not a sir. Nothing like a good misgendering. It is a knife in the gut when I get called sir. I feel like I need to tell him. I need to tell him that hurt. It hurts more though, and it's not intentional because it means like this is sir to him. I know you didn't mean it, but I'm not a sir.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I know you didn't mean it. It's just, you know, it hurts. I know when people clock me, it's fine, but like it does kind of hurt. Thank you. I'm not sir.
Oh, sorry.
Not sir. Not sir. The guy who dropped the food off, he called me sir twice in a row.
Okay. I'll let him know that and GM as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Girl, get it together. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're thinking, but no sir, no ma'am, and no anything in between. If all the servers say,
It's a man.
it's more of a you problem than a them problem. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Here's the thing. I don't really know what they're trying to accomplish here other than having hardworking, everyday people lose their jobs, and I don't know how that's going to help anybody or that's going to help trans relations or if this person even is trans. Because at no point did this person ever say that they were a trans woman. Instead, they said,
I use she, her pronouns.
and even if you are a trans woman, it's not anybody's job to know what's going on in your head. It's your job to be an adult and understand that if everybody's calling you sir,
Maybe God's trying to tell you something.
maybe you need to work on your transition. I don't know, try a little rouge, slap on a little more lipstick, soften your voice a little bit. And do people like this ever stop to think maybe the server wasn't trying to offend you? Maybe he wasn't trying to misgender you. Maybe he's just thinking about the fact that he has a table that needs refills. He has another table with a baby that's throwing shit everywhere. He's got another table where they need ranch. And now he's got to remember the dude on table 5 is a she, her. And maybe that's not at the top of his list of things to think about. Maybe he's hungover. Maybe he's had a bad day. Maybe his boss yelled at him for something else earlier today that was completely unrelated to you and your gender. And when it comes to your gender, maybe we don't have a problem with your gender at all. Maybe the world doesn't have a problem with your gender. Maybe the problem is you have a problem with your gender and you want to make that everybody else's problem. You want to make it seem like people are victimizing you because you don't like what and who you are. And that doesn't have to be our problem. That's not something we all have to participate in. And I do have a problem with the term misgendering because they haven't misgendered you. Technically, they've hit it right on the head. You just don't like the gender that you're presenting as. Because if all of those servers thought you were a man, guess what you look like? And there's even a point in the video where she knocks over a plate while she's trying to grab her camera like a man. And one of the times, even the dog looks at her like, we on this shit still? You're not pulling it off. I hate to be the one to break it to you. I know I'm supposed to be your best friend, but best friends help. They don't enable. And I give it up to that dog because back in my day, what would have happened was you would have had some elder trans women or maybe even younger trans women that were further along in their transition that would tell you, hey girl, we're not doing this right now. That hairline looks like Pennywise. we need to work on that. Facial feminization, that either needs to come in or you need to get pumped with some silicone. Something needs to happen because you're not presenting the way that you want to present. And it's not anybody else's fault that you're not doing your job. If you haven't done the homework, if you haven't made it so people will know what it is you're getting at, then how is it people are supposed to know what it is you're getting at? And what you're doing is you're making everyday people feel like trans is something that they shouldn't deal with. Like one time I was talking to a friend of mine who's also a stand-up comedian. His name's Rick. And Rick is a straight white male. And we were talking about some of the trans comics that we had on the LA scene at the time and kind of some of the trouble that they were starting. And literally what he told me was, he was like, I'm a straight white man. I make it a point not to talk to anybody that's different from me. And not because I have a problem with them, but because there are too many landmines and I don't want to step on one. So if you want to make it so people start to completely ignore people that they perceive as trans or people that may be non-binary because they don't want to deal with the headache of it, you are definitely on your way to that. But if what you're trying to do is advance a movement or make people feel sympathetic to trans people, you are failing miserably. And see, I'm a person who doesn't mind respecting people. So if she says she's a she, her, I'm cool to be she, her. But stop trying to get people in trouble. Stop trying to make people lose their jobs and understand that you're turning a lot of people off, which is doing a huge disservice to the trans community. No matter how much you think you're helping, no matter what you think you're accomplishing, you're not accomplishing it. And what you're really not accomplishing is looking like a woman. You're not fitting the bill. And this one bothers me especially because I had it happen to a really good friend of mine and I saw the full other side of it. There was a comedian at one point that identified as trans. She probably still is trans. What do I know? I don't keep up with these people. But what happened was she did an entire podcast where she was talking about the fact that at the time he was a he, that he was a cross-dresser, not trans. He just liked to dress like a woman. Transvestite is the term for that. This was from his own mouth at that time. So then months go by. We're not keeping a minute to minute on him. He goes into a Starbucks that my friend works at to pay his bills. He's an adult. It's not an after-school job for him. He has worked at Starbucks for years. Apparently the benefits are good at Starbucks. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. So this person comes in that the last we heard identifies as a man, but just cross-dresses. So my friend sees him and is actually happy to see him because we used to know him in a cooler context. And he's like, hey, what's up, sir? This person corrects my friend. My friend was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. The person does not accept the apology. Instead, she asked to speak with the manager because
It is ma'am.
she feels like he should get fired for calling her sir. But really, he wasn't doing anything wrong and he was respecting her by referring to her as sir because last we heard he was still a man. So you can be mad at other people because they're not saying things exactly the way that you want them to, but you can't say that people are disrespecting you because sometimes people are respecting you. Like there was a point where I had long hair. I had hair about down to here. It was lovely. But every once in a while, a cashier, or one time it happened to me at the DMV, wouldn't look up at me. They would just catch a glimpse through their periphery and they would just see the hair and they would call me ma'am. I still had facial hair. I still was a man. Am a man. But they had called me ma'am. And when they would look up and notice, they would be somewhat embarrassed about it. I would just chuckle and then they would chuckle. Maybe we'd there were a couple times we actually laughed. Because it was funny. But I, even as a man, a biological male, didn't feel like she had insulted my manhood. Didn't feel like she had taken anything away from me. Didn't feel like
A knife in the heart,
or it was like,
a knife in the gut.
what are you talking about? Tell you guys one more story like this that happened to me personally before I get out of here. One time I was at this restaurant in Chico. It was like an upscale burger spot, but there's a lot of homeless in those areas sometimes. And so you have to ask for access to the bathrooms. So I asked my server, who was a female, if she could let me in the bathroom. This is when I had the long hair and I knew that they were going to be taking pictures there because it was a small theater we were performing at and I wanted to look good for the pictures. So I had a full face of makeup, but it was boy makeup. I wasn't trying to look like a woman or present as a woman in any way. I was just making sure these pictures came out right. So I asked the server if she can let me into the bathroom and she grabs the key. She saw me me all the way, looked at me. I stood up in front of her so she saw what my body looked like too. And she proceeded to walk me over to the women's bathroom and let me in to the women's bathroom. Did I get offended about it? Not at all. Did I ask to speak with her manager because how could she not know that this was boy makeup I was wearing and not girl makeup I was wearing? Not at all. I was in the bathroom by myself, even though there were several stalls. Had there been women in there, I would have been uncomfortable, and I probably would have told her just to keep the women from getting uncomfortable. But instead, I just took a quick Instagram video where I told everybody that apparently I was trans, and I was recording that from the women's bathroom because I had been let into the women's bathroom. Then when I got back to my table where my friend was, I was hanging out with one of my straight friends, a comedian. I told him about it. We laughed, and that was the end of it. But I also thought about it on the level of this server thought that she was doing the right thing and showing me as much respect as she could possibly show me by accepting what she perceived my gender to be. So she let me in the women's bathroom. Now, why would I take that away from her? She was trying to be as nice as she possibly could be. Why would I make her feel silly about that? Why would I especially make her feel like she had done something wrong? And even worse, try to make her lose her job, which are all options that were on the table for me had I been that kind of person. But instead, I just took it for what it was. A person trying their best to be nice in a world where sometimes you don't know what's going on. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.